Good morning. Welcome to the Backyard Professor live session on chess. Let's get this screen adjusted. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. I'm starting a few minutes early today. We're going to continue looking at the Sicilian. There's a lot of ideas in the Winning Chess Traps by Irving Chernev, a little bit older book, but this does not outdate it by any means. Even though it's 30 years old, this stuff works. You've got to be able to know where to place your pieces and your pawns. So, anyway, we're going to look at some of those Sicilian openings and chess traps, both for black and white. But I also found a really fabulous game in Bobby Fischer's 60 Memorable Games, my 60 Memorable Games, where he plays against his favorite defense, the Sicilian. So I found a game where he got a brilliancy prize against his favorite opening as black. So very good, very good. Looks like we're coming in. Hey, Eddie Guerrera, good to see you. Bella Glavis up. How are you doing? I'm starting just a few minutes early this morning, but we're going to do some more Sicilian opening ideas, and then we're going to look at one of Bobby Fischer's very favorite plays against his favorite Sicilian openings. So, hope everyone is having a good weekend. I am. I'm having fun. I watched Coach Andrus this last couple of Saturday nights. Last night, Coach Andrus, Andras, an international master of chess, do his live stream. And he is a hoot. He is fun. He is very with it. The guy is good. So it's a bright, sunny morning, and it's cold as all get out. Hey, Rick, good to see you, bub. Yes, happy Saturday to you, too. It's so cold outside, I wanted to stay inside, and a good morning to do some chess. Pawn, king 4, pawn, queen, bishop 4. So here comes the Sicilian. Knight, king, bishop 3, pawn, king 3. And we have pawn, queen 4. He's d4, in other words. Yeah, this is the old nomenclature. Pawn will take. Knight will take. This is typical opening Sicilian at this point. Knight comes to the f6, of course. And knight will come to the c3, of course. And now they're going to. So it's a small center. He hasn't advanced either one of his central pawns up to like you can in the opening. So this is considered a small, tight center. One of the downsides to this is you can get all crammed up and cramped up if you're not careful as playing black. And so we will see how he does this. Pawn, queen 3, and now the bishop will come. He's just coming out to e2. Yes, he's got an option to do a check, but that's just going to lead to either the knight or the bishop, either to c6 or d7, blocking it. So this way, he keeps all of his pieces tight. He keeps all of his pieces coherent and together. And so it's a good, solid opening. Let's say hi to everybody else. Jimmy, good to see you, man. All right. So we're at a good point here to castle. Again, you want to castle early. And black is going to prepare to castle also, very appropriate. And now he's got, so immediately the one thing we see in this particular opening that is worth emphasizing and noticing is, notice there's only been just a couple of pawn moves, and he already has all 4 of his minor pieces developed. Everything is coordinated. Everything is touching what they need to be touching. The center is very well protected. Knight and pawn, the knights and pawn, and the bishops work in excellent coordination. Everything's covered. A good, solid opening. Just pointing that out. And Now we're going to stop any of the knight shenanigans that can occur if they decide to start doing some wing attacks. So he bumps the queen rook pawn, and the queen will come up. Bumping the queen connects the rooks. Always a good thing to do in the early opening. And now black will castle. So really, truly, the queen side of black is somewhat slower at being developed, right? So let's keep our eye on that. And because of that, now white has his pieces out, white has his queen up, white has his rooks connected. He's going to gain more space. He does this by pressing F4. Now, as a general rule, so really, truly, what move are we on? Yeah, see, we're on the 10th move. And so, I mean, as a rough kind of guesstimation, the opening will last for what, a dozen moves? And then you get into the middle game, 14 moves. I mean, we've seen games that can be played, done, and over with in just 6 moves, right? So where do you draw the line between the opening, the middle game, and the end game, right? As a general rule, I'm going to just say a dozen moves just for a reference. As a generalization, the F pawn means forget about it. I get that from John Bartholomew, who's also an excellent chess YouTube channel. Very superb man. The F pawn means forget about it. You don't want to push it too early. Now, that doesn't mean you don't want to push it, because in this instance, this is very valuable, very, very helpful, because he is gaining more space. He is also being able to carry forward an attack if he so wishes. Now, this option of pushing the central pawn even further, hitting the knight, opens up because he pushed the F pawn, right? So that's not bad. Or he could do it this way. He could attack the E pawn itself and eliminate a very important central pawn, or at least make him perhaps push the pawn. And that would have the effect of somewhat locking the center for the time being. He would hit his knight and he would have to bump his knight out. So this F4 is not a mistake. The reason, if you do this within the first 5 moves, see, we're at move 10. If within the first 5 moves, the problem is it opens up this diagonal to where the king sits. And that diagonal, if the pawn is pushed right, gives the queen a very interesting check that is very difficult. Since you push the F pawn, it's difficult to block. So you end up moving your king, losing your castling ability. That's the downside of pushing that F pawn too early. Move 10, this helps. It is not a mistake. I'm probably overkilling the emphasis, right? But it's really important because so many of us hear something, don't push the F pawn, and so we think that means throughout the rest of the game, or not until way later, and that can be problematic. So that's why I say, as a general rule, first dozen moves. Let's say hi to Legend. Why is chess so hard? Because it gives all of us a chance to bandy together on live programs like this and learn how to make it so that it's not so hard. Why is bench pressing 400 pounds so hard? So that you can get tremendous glory when you put the work in for several years of exercising to get to where you can bench press 400 pounds. I know, chintzy answer, but actually pretty important one. Chess is a process. I agree. Look, I've been at it my whole life, and I'm still really, honestly, in the learning phase. So you're not alone, my friend. I'm just saying. Queen B2. I try to present basics to you as well as fundamentals of what to do and not to do in my videos. So just keep watching the videos and keep practicing what you're doing. It will come. Legend, I can promise you, it will begin to get easier as you do that. True story. So queen's going to develop b2, eyeing this queen side. Poor queen side development, though. This is going to end up being significant. And here's why. Because now the rook to d1. The theme of developing your pieces, bumping your queen up, connect your rooks. Now, finally, you can put your rooks, the heavy pieces, onto the central files, which is always useful. And once again, the rook across from the queen file itself. It's only a partial open file. Black still has the central pawn, but that shouldn't deter you from putting the rook on the central files. Knight, queen, rook 4. Knight, queen, rook 4. What in the tarnation? Queen, bishop 2. Queen, rook, queen 1. Knight, queen, rook 4. That can't possibly be right. I don't believe it. There's a misprint in this. Are you kidding me? I played through this the other day. Oh my gosh, I skipped a black move. There's no way. After the knight takes pawn, knight went to king, bishop 3. Then after bishop went to king 2, what did I play? I played bishop, king 2, and it was supposed to be knight. Oh my gosh. I've been missing a move for 4 moves. Sorry. I hate it when I do that. That's what I'm known for. See, legend, you're not the only one. I can't even read a chess book right yet. Okay, so this is, there we go. Oh my goodness. The knight hasn't made any moves, so that actually helps us understand why there's tension in the center better now. Now that looks better. So see, all that shenanigan twitting black about not developing the queen side was a bunch of hokum. He had brought out his knight. Okay, so 4 moves earlier than this, that knight was there. Sorry. I must have just skipped that. My eye skipped that. Anyway, no problem, because it doesn't change the way either one of them played or what they did. They castled. They went to bishop, king 2, bishop, king 3, pawn, queen, rook 3, queen, queen 2 came up, and then he castled. So we're good. Pawn to bishop 4, the f4 move, and then the queen to bishop 2. So, holy cow, man. Gotta keep this on the up and up. This is the proper form at this point on move 10. We got it. Queen, rook over. Now the knight comes to queen, rook 4. Now this makes sense because he's looking to go to c4. What c4 will do, it's a good centralization of the knight. He can bump the center pawn and takes. That'll leave a pawn as an outpost for the knight, and that's a good outpost for the knight, hitting the queen, of course, and the bishop. So he would be hitting directly on white's forces if he gets that knight to c4. So, and the reason I'm going to great pains to explain this is because, again, as a general common chess wisdom, you don't want to just be making random moves with your pieces over and over and over again with the same piece in the opening. You do want to get fully developed. Now, he still has the bishop and the rook on the queen side to develop. So here he's moving his knight once, twice, and he's going to try to make it a third time. And as a general rule, it's best first if you do what white did. Notice how white has crisp and clean developed every piece with just 1 move each. That's ideal. That's the ideal. Now, it's not always possible. I mean, there are book openings, chess theory. We understand this is the principle, but everybody violates it. Quote, violates it, which technically isn't a violation. This is not coming to here and then coming to here, and then coming to here is not just randomly moving, however. There is purpose and sting in that move, just so you know. So I say, don't move a piece more than once in the opening if you can help it. And yet, in some regards, look, we are on the 11th move. So are we really in the opening, or are we we're entering, of course, we're entering the middle game. So why not pre-prep and set up a powerful middle game position with your knight? Technically, there's the center is open, and yet nothing is slashing through it. For instance, nobody's attacking anybody just yet. And it's not that this is an attacking move, but it's a preparation for a setup to where he can exchange some pieces so that the battle can begin. That wouldn't be considered moving randomly, I don't think, at all. So white comes one more, queen, queen 3, guarding the c4 with the queen. And that's the point of it. And now here's the mistake. He's pushing his queenside pawn, okay? So the bishop to queen 2 would be more accurate. Your pawn pushes are really important when you attack on a wing or anywhere in the center or on the other wing. It doesn't matter. I say on the wing. Don't think that's the only exception. But when you are pushing your pawns, it really is necessary. I was going to say it really is best, but it's actually necessary for you to prepare to have the chance to make your pawn push successful. Otherwise, what are you throwing your pawns up there for? It's a complete waste of time because they're just going to be exchanged and batted away, and they cause no damage. So before pushing pawns, it's better to move a piece, right? If you have a choice between, do I push a pawn? That pawn push looks pretty good. Now, there's nothing wrong with that pawn push. That's not a bad place to put the pawn. That's not the point. The point is the piece development so that you can connect your rooks, for Pete's sake, is much more important. Remember, every move takes time. And in the opening, you want to be fast. You want to be speedy. You want to be developed better, sooner than your opponent. You can't do that if you push too many pawns all the time. You can't just keep pushing pawns all the time and expect to beat a game. You must bring out your pieces. Why? Because they cover more squares. So this was a better move. And then this, now that would be exceptionally good. But he didn't do that. He went ahead and just pushed the pawn. So how would we respond here is the question. Now we want to ask the question, how do we respond to this pawn push? Want to make sure nobody's asking any really important questions. I've already put you all to sleep. The chat's quiet. Good. That's a good thing, right? What you do is you meet him. Pawn to queen 4, or queen knight 4, b4. So let's look at the differences here between these two pawn pushes. Number one, the pawn doesn't have support of the piece. Not directly. Now, it's really crazy because, and when you look at this, you go, well, that's so obvious. One piece is hitting that square. Two pieces is hitting that square. Three pieces is hitting that square. And you can't forget the bishop behind the queen. That is a queen bishop battery. 4 pieces are hitting that square. B5 is going to be taken from black. He cannot maintain that. And you say, yeah, well, what's the difference? That little punk move isn't going to save that pawn either. That's not the point. You always put your pieces behind your pawns and push them. At least you can get an exchange. So that doesn't do anything but cause problems for black. But the knight pawn, the B pawn for white, does something exquisite. It hits a target. And that is all the difference in the world in this game, believe it or not. And yet they're just two B-file pawn moves. But the difference is between night and day. So let's see what happens. Knight does come to the outpost. Now, and that's proper because, of course, the queen is not going to take that knight. Right? And neither knight can take that knight. So in essence, he's hitting the bishop. Or else he's coming to here to the B2. Look at that beautiful fork on the queen and the rook. Bing, bing. Boy, that would be ideal for black to get in, wouldn't it? So don't ignore the moves when the knights start getting close or even into your territory. You want to double check the knights. They are tricky animals. I'm just saying. We all know that already, without question. So the knight here at D will take the pawn. So here's an interesting effect. The knight is covered by the rook pawn, right? So this is a piece exchange, a piece sacrifice, more or less. Notice what it does for black is it opens up the rook file, though. So was that a wise exchange for white to play the knight there? Let's take a look. Because now the other knight can now take that pawn, and it's a double attack on the queen, knight hitting the queen, and on the knight, because now the pawn's down, and the queen, backed by the bishop, is attacking the knight. So it's irrelevant if the queen is defending that knight. The queen wants to take that knight, and white, if it was white's move, here's the tactic. Take the knight, the queen will exchange the queen, and you get a knight and a queen, and black only gets a queen if he does that. So the tactic is there. So black, with all of his vaunted glory, now see, at this point, white wouldn't have had the knight had black moved the white bishop here and been able to exchange that knight. There's your difference. That's why with pieces backing the pawns, this would have been an entirely different situation. Yes, black would have lost his white squared bishop, but he would have also eliminated both of the knights of white. The knight wouldn't be there, and this wouldn't be such a disaster. There would have been no double attack. So there's the value there for put your pieces in support of your pawns when you decide to push your pawns. And you always do want to, I say always reservedly, you do want to have pawn pushes, but man, back them up. So I'm seeing the chat move. Oh, Borlord, hello, my friend. Oh, I'm sorry, Belaglavi, your Wi-Fi is terrible. Darn it. So the knight takes the pawn, and now the queen comes to bishop 3. So the queen avoids being taken, but now the queen takes the knight. Like I was saying, there it is. And what is the value of this particular situation? Now we're thick in the middle game. Number one, we're thick in the middle game. Number two, white is absolutely fully developed. Black is not. He still is undeveloped with two pieces. The queen rook and the queen bishop, that is not good. He's behind in development, but worse, black is now down 2 pawns. So at this point, and I'm just saying this is a generalization, when you find yourself in the position to where your opponent is down even just 1 pawn, but 2 pawns, with the grandmasters, all it takes is a pawn, and they will trade down right now. They will force trades like crazy and get into the end game. When you're 2 pawns down, if your opponent is 2 pawns down, start trading off immediately. Your strategy is get to the end game and push a pawn in. Now, of course, this entails that number 1, we know middle game, how to play the middle game, and number 2, that we know how to play the end game, especially the king and pawns end game. So, I need to do some end game studies. There are some great end game studies out there on YouTube, but I also want to develop some and show some also. So in this instance, black is without question losing. That's the point. When you can read the board, you got great development. And it's not just about getting your pieces out there either. You don't want to just slap them out there with no cooperation or safety. So white, all of his pieces are coordinated beautifully all the way across. Black is so undeveloped, I get it though. Look, he's got a target here. It is covered by the queen, but the point is he does have a file. He's got something he can use, So technically, it is true. The rook is not developed, but that does not mean he's not useful. He is doing a good function. And the bishop needs to get out. And technically, this rook here is not doing a whole lot. Now, this rook here is less active than this rook because he's pushed his f-pawn. This rook has 2 squares he's covering. This rook has none. Forward squares, on the file. So this rook is even more active. This rook is by far the best rook in the game. And this rook is doing pretty dang good over on the side. I say best rook in, well, I'm going to say best rook in the game simply because he is keeping an eye on the center of black. And again, it's a small, compact center. It's not fully advanced. It's not fighting yet for weak squares or anything like that. There are so many blasted weaknesses here on black's queen side. That's where you're going to play as white. Everything goes this direction. Both your bishops are pointing here, your queen's over here, your knight's over here. Your rook has the file to develop to support. You're definitely fighting on the queen side here. Yes, it's fun to attack the king. Look, this board says you can't attack that king. You can't. There's no point to it. His pawns are rock solid. He does have guardians near him. Forget the king. Your game to win is here on the queen side. Look at all the weaknesses. The pawns were taken on the queen side. And you still have, if you utilize your pawns correctly, now you can switch and come back over. And you've got serious queenside potential to go kick some El Derriero. Yeah, but you're going to go kick butt. So, a fun game to show, again, the importance. And see, legend, this is why I keep doing videos and why so many of my videos are repetitious, just so you're aware of this. This is for you, my friend, because it works. The center development, the total development gave white the ability, the tactics, and the power to get 2 pawns ahead. That's winning. So chess is hard. I can't disagree with you there. If you begin to practice making sure you don't just move your pieces out willy-nilly, but you do move each piece out one at a time. Don't be pushing a bunch of pawn moves on the side or up the center unless you're justified in the center just to be making pawn moves. That is a waste of time. But if you fully develop, your power enlarges. It doesn't shrink, especially if your opponent does not develop as fast. Okay, so there's a hint. See, all we have to do is improve our chess 1% every day. Just improve 1% every day. Learn something new every single day in chess, right? Watch the Backyard Professor videos, and I'll show you something new every day. As I consistently, steadfastly, repeatedly describe the same principles over and over and over again that we need to incorporate into our games, because look, it's making everybody else win. I mean, if it's making these guys win, it'll help us win, right? That's my theory, and I'm not kidding. I'm sticking to it. Woohoo! Okay, let's look at another Sicilian here, and this one is this next one is quite fun as well. We shall get educated on more essence of the Sicilian and how to play it either as black or white. The reason white came off with the advantage on that one, without question, is because of his superior development. There is absolutely no question about that. Because of his superior development, he was able to put it feasibly and powerfully enough to get 2 pawns ahead. And when you get 2 pawns ahead, you're on a roll. Okay, let's go to our second one. Sicilian coming at us hard, fast, and furious. Beautiful, beautiful opening. Pawn will typically take the pawn. Knight will typically take the pawn. Knight, king, bishop 3, of course. Knight, queen, bishop 3, of course. We've seen this before, and we will see this in many, many instances. The fascinating thing is all it takes is one just kind of a minor difference, and bam, things can fall apart really, really quick. All guns are firing. The king is castled. Things are going good. That's a good precautionary move since you've got both of the knights pointing toward the queen's side. That's not a bad idea to make sure they can't get real too deep into there. Bring the queen out, of course, because you want to connect your rooks. Again, we see this, and here's the other thing that I didn't point out in the previous game that I will here that just comes to mind. The f-pawn means forget about it early on. Now, what move are we on here? We're on move number 9, okay? So 9 is well, I mean, not everything is developed. 9 is late opening time. I'll put it that way, okay? So we see the F-bump. One justification of this F-bump, not only is it not in the first 5 moves, man, don't ever play the F-pawn, within the first 5 moves, no matter what. That would be wise not to do, but observe where the queen came out. Okay, now here, if she's still here, you move this knight up, take this pawn or whatever you do, wherever you put the knight, which would be ridiculous because you're not well developed. But there are people who play like that, and those are the ones you can take advantage of with your excellent development. But the queen has access, see? Now, this king's already castled. Even after the king is castled, they have access to that diagonal. That's a weak diagonal in white's play. That's why pushing the f-pawn too early is very risky. Try not to do it. In this case, queen has come to here. So white knows that that diagonal, the E1, H4 diagonal, is not going to affect his game. What the f-pawn does inadvantageously for white is it gives him more space. It also activates that rook on f, right? It also has threats against the center and the king side simultaneously. I should say it enables white to have more power to do a centralized or a king side attack. Not an attacking move in and of itself, but an excellent preparatory move if it's later in the opening, just like this. That's a lot of wind to explain, but see, that's the fun of studying these things. Just learn what each move, what each piece is trying to accomplish, learn what it does right, learn what it does wrong, see the upside and the downside of every single move. And the reason why is obvious. Watch. The chessboard is not the same after that move. But that's true for every move. And so that's why it's important to stop, take stock after every single move, relook at things. Here, the knight tension is important. Okay, so truly, the bishop does have the knight covered. In fact, the queen also has the knight covered. So it's not like that's a loose knight. And the queen and the pawn, and have that knight covered. So there's tension here, but probably not going to be an exchange. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you move away the bishop and block off the support of the queen and take away your bishop support, or black is going to take that knight now. You see how that would change the game? Just one bad bishop move. Oops, fell asleep, or I didn't look. Stop, take the time, and look at every piece and see the effect. Watch the dynamic happen in the board. So right now, we have been focusing on the knight tension, very properly so. But it's gone. But look what else shows up because of just one more move, one move. And this happens every move, whether your side or your opponent's side. That's why after every move, you need to look more carefully. And I'm speaking to myself out loud here. Now this square, C4, becomes very, very serious to pay serious attention to, because that's where that knight wants to go. Now, he may not be able to at the moment. This might just be a preparation move. You know, you can look at him and say, what a punk amateur. He put his knight on the rim, and therefore he's dim, and all that jazz. Yeah. However, recognize that he's not going to leave that knight there for 38 more moves. He's looking here, and he's got the queen to back him up. So the square is covered only by the bishop. So that square is safe for that knight. And that's a monster knight. That's a great spot for that knight. So it's worth taking a move or two to get to that point, right? But it sure changed the dynamic. I wanted to say that it's very important for this. However, he's doing this too early. Again, look at the lack of development of black. Neither one of his bishops are out. That's not good. He's not even ready to castle yet. So here's another general rule that you really would be wise to abide by if you want to save yourself a lot of chess losses. Castle before you begin your attack, if at all possible. It is way better to castle first, get that king to safety, and then begin to cooperate, coordinate, put all your pieces together, make sure all your pieces are on the right side of the board or the other one or in the center or whatever, and put them all together so that knight doesn't trip over bishop, over rook, over queen, etc., and then begin to attack. But it really is best to first castle. Well, he's not even ready to castle, and he's already thinking of c4. That's why that's not a good move. No, get your army out. Once again, if I can point out the superior development of white. All four of his pieces are out. Now he's got to get his queen and his rooks in the game. And because of this, which is going to be nullified, this premature attack, it can't succeed. Why? Okay, let's do the math. How many pieces is attacking white? How many pieces are in white's field that can do something about that attack? Oh, I would say pretty much absolutely every one of them except that rook. So it's 6-1. I mean, come on. That's not an attack, right? This is how to help you not get anxious, perhaps, if your opponent begins to get into your territory. All right, let him. You could laugh at this point. You can say, oh, thanks for the free knight. Right? Because of that, now he can do this. Now, notice this. He is prematurely preparing for an attack, which means he's moving a piece more than once. Now, this means that he's leaving some pieces undeveloped that he shouldn't be. So undeveloped pieces not only cannot help in an attack, they cannot help in a defense if you attack. And why not? Pushing the pawn gains more space. It increases the activity of the rook. It opens up the bishops, plural, and it gives the knight a chance to start coming in, or the pawn to start beating up the king side. And he is still at least two moves away from castling. If the king stays in the center, open it up. Attack with your pawns and open up the center. That's what white's doing. And now, to what effect? Who cares? Would that make you nervous? Not one point would it me. Anytime your opponent's pieces here's the meridian line. Anytime your opponent's pieces get into your territory, you want to focus on them. You want your eye goes right to there and say, oh, enemy intruder, danger, Will Robinson, danger. You want to focus on that and get him out of your territory. But in this instance, this is so vastly superior because why? Because he's got the pieces backing him up. This is absolutely vastly more deadly to his opponent than his paltry attempt against you. So this is good news. He's wasting time. He is wasting time. How do you handle this? Thanks for the night, cowboy. Love it. Gotta love it. And you say, yeah, but you exchanged a bishop for a knight, and that's not good to do in most instances. You have to look at the context. The context here is the king is in the center, so don't worry about, yes, and especially toward the end game, the bishops are better than the knights. So, yeah, you don't want to just frivolously change off a bishop and a knight. But why give black any kind of counterplay at all when you have such an exquisite way to open up the center to go get the king? Because you're better developed, which means your attack will be better, and black cannot defend as good. Let's take a look at the action. On takes pawn. Rook takes knight. Now you see the power of the development. And you say, but wait, isn't a rook more powerful than a knight? Yes. Sometimes you go down the exchange. You can change a more powerful piece for a less powerful piece because the king isn't castled and he hasn't done anything in order to get ready to castle either. So attack for everything you're worth. It's worth exchanging a rook for a knight without question, because let's see why. Kablam, check. Because you exchanged down. You gave your rook for the knight. In the process, the knight was supported by a pawn that prevented this queen move. But because you sacrificed the rook for the knight, now the position opens. Again, after every move, the position will change. And now the queen can infiltrate your opponent. And hot dog, baby, mwah! Genghis Khan, step aside. I'm going to show you a new army attack. Here we go. And of course, now he can't castle. He's got to move. King, queen, one. And okay, so now this is interesting because as a general rule, the queen alone also, now just like we saw with the lone knight. Now what came of that knight attack? He expended 1, 2, 3 moves. And I want you to notice this. This is huge. He 1, 2, 3 knight moves, and black is exactly 1, 2, 3 undeveloped pieces down from white. Technically 4. So we know that 1, 2 of those moves were a complete waste of time. And then the queen had to move again out of play. Where is the queen? She's way over here because she was guarding that idiotic knight, the lone knight. He thought he was Sir Galahad and he was Twit L'Amour. And now the queen had to make another move. There's your third move, costing you 3 tempi in development. And the price is huge. The enemy's infiltrating. Look at this. Now, if you're playing black and the alarms aren't going off in your head, you're either dead or asleep. You don't get the implication here. But because you farted around with your knight and your queen, you're in deep, serious trouble. Observe. I don't know if this is going to happen yet or not. I haven't played through this. This is new to me too, at least not for many decades. One thing comes to my eye is that rook is able to scuttle over here and help with the queen real quick. Because now that's all open. White has nothing of the same kind as defense. Oh, he can put the rook to g8. Big deal. That doesn't defend against, that doesn't help defend the king. So the bishop will now come to king 2. Finally, black wakes up and says, oh, hey, I've got a bishop. How about that? Yeah, playing without your bishops is just foolhardy, and yet that's what we've seen black do. That's why he's in the pickle, because he wasted so much time with the queen and knight. That could not, because of the excellent development of white, that attack simply could not happen. And it didn't. How many moves has the queen been sitting there doing nothing? The most powerful piece is out of play. And technically I'm fudging, but I'm trying to make a point here. Yes, the queen is guarding a very important pawn with the bishop. Okay, I'll grant that. Okay. Fair argument, fair argument. Bishop king 2 and charge! When you begin to attack a centralized king, you give it everything you've got. You don't hesitate. You don't Mickey Mouse around with, oh well, what if his bishop comes over to here? I better block the bishop. No, don't waste your time doing stuff like that. You are in full attack mode. And if it means sacrificing a piece or 2 or 3 or 4 to get the checkmate, then do that because you get the checkmate. That's what you're after. So get used to this. And I'm speaking to myself. You got to get used to this because this is the hardest concept for me too. Look, dude, I've already sacrificed the rook. And now you're asking me to sacrifice the knight. Well, I'm going to ask you a question in return. Do you want to win the game? Well, yeah. I mean, the king's in the center. He's exposed. You can't castle. The queen's way out of play. Do you want to win the game? Yeah. Well, then shut up about losing pieces and start opening up the king more so that you can go get him. You've got a rook here that you can utilize. You best hop on it. If that means get rid of the knight to open it up, then sacrifice the knight also and pull that rook in. That would be my response if I was your chess coach, right? Let's see what happens. Now the rook can play. Oh, hey, welcome to the party, dude. It's move 16. Where have you been? Eating in too much lunch? It's afternoon right now. You're late to the fight. And now the knight takes the pawn. Look at that fork on the rook and the queen and the bishop. And it's not like the knight is safe. But why not? You get rid. That's beautiful. That's good chess. You can't help but giggle, man. What a fork. Because you got rid of one of the pawns covering the king. So what a great way to go out in a blaze of glory. That knight gets a gold forehead on his star. That's a fantastic move. So the bishop will take the knight. And bishop goes check. Now observe the, I love this kind of chess too for this reason, is you have some really good power over here coming in. Queen. So why not do the crisscross and bring really good power this way with another diagonal playing piece, the bishop. Come on, that's good. That's good stuff. The queen alone won't do it. But man, she can wreak havoc and bring in other pieces while you're creating havoc with your knight and your queen. Bring in another warrior. That's fun stuff, man. So bishop comes to bishop 2 to block the check. And here we go. Rook queen 1. And here black resigned. Because you checkmate in 2 moves. Right? You can see that. There's no way to block it with the rook. You can block it with the bishop or the other bishop or the queen, but you're not going to do that. So you have to go here because this bishop is pinned. He can't block. You block there, and then there you go. Mate. Just like that. Is that mate? I better find out real quick. Yep, that's mate. Fantastic. The cooperation and coordination of the developed pieces. The rook here. The knight here. Keeping the central pawn there. the queen with the rook and the knight, the bishop, in conjunction with putting a super pin on there to eliminate one of the lazy pieces of black because it's pinned, it can't function, and therefore you can checkmate. The misplaced rook because of the lack of castling. I mean, this game has it all. It's obvious why white won this game. And the rook that never got off his home square. So you had one rook that ate breakfast for so long that it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon before it came into the game, and you have another rook who slept in. He slept all day. Well, that doesn't help you defend your king when your opponent's full developed army comes through. Fun stuff this is. I'm just saying. I love seeing chess like this. This is so instructional. And the crazy thing about this, you guys, is it is the same theme over and over and over again because it works. And rather than being bored with it, it's exciting to see the pattern. And you say, all right, look, come on. If he can do it, I can do it. This is what makes these kind of studies on opening traps and combinations and various puzzles, tactics and stuff. That's what makes these so fun for me, is I'm telling myself, okay, yeah, I'm not as good a chess player as these guys are. That's a granted. That's not the issue. That's irrelevant. How good you are doesn't make a hill beans a difference. The thing is, man, if they can do this, I can do this. And I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you right now. If they can play chess like this, then so can we. And I'm going to prove it to you right here, right now. The question is, I can't possibly make it so that I can strengthen my chess or begin to win in chess because I'm not as good as they are. Watch. We know the opening. Either the king or the queen pawn is fine. Okay, let's just do the king for kicks and giggles. Usually they'll respond like that and say, oh, well, see, I'm not as good as him. No, you're not. I'm not as good as my opponent. But that doesn't stop me from bringing my knight out. And it sure doesn't stop me from bringing my bishop out. And it sure doesn't stop me from bringing my other knight out. And it darn sure doesn't stop me from pushing my pawn, supporting my central pawn either. That's my second pawn move. And it absolutely doesn't prevent me from not castling, because I can castle here, and so does my opponent. See, my opponent's better than me. He's castled. Irrelevant. That doesn't stop you from castling either. And it doesn't stop me from bringing out yet another piece. And see, my opponent knows what to do. He's attacking my bishop. What do? I'm not as good as my opponent. Who cares? You've got your bishop developed out there. Do something with it. One option. Yeah, but see, now he got rid of my bishop. Yeah, well, you got rid of his knight. Well, and now the problem is, I don't know where to put my queen, and he's going to bring his bishop out, and he's going to pin my knight against my queen, and I don't know what to do. I'm stuck here. Just bump the pawn. If he comes back here, now you start bringing in your rooks. Now, you're not as good as your opponent. That's a granted. I'm not as good as my opponents. That's a granted. But look at your development. You can do this because you just did. You moved every piece once. You developed putting a couple of pawns out there. Yeah, you made an extra pawn move. It's all good. You got castled. Your queen's up. Your rooks are connected. What's not to like in that? And you can do that every game. Whether you're as good as your opponent or not is absolutely irrelevant. Totally. You can do what we are seeing being done by the grandmasters, the international masters, the national masters, and all of these really cool opening traps and puzzles by just following the formula. There's not a grandmaster in the world right now who wouldn't say, hey, that's not a bad setup. That's a pretty good opening. Got all your pieces out, your queens up, your rooks are hooked. There's not really any major glaring weaknesses. No piece is undefended. That's not bad. That's okay. That's decent. That's good. There's not a grandmaster out there that wouldn't say that about your opening that you just did. So you can too do this. That's the value of watching all these videos is why is chess so hard, Legend? Because it makes you better as you begin to practice the correct principles. So do that. That would be my advice. Wow, I didn't mean to get preachy and lecture, but on the other hand, I did, because this is what makes chess so much fun. Right? It really does. So we can do this. And it is a boatload of fun to do it. Woohoo! So, okay, so let's take another look at another Sicilian that is really interesting because, if I remember correctly, on this one, yeah, this is a fun one. This is one of those trippy-trappy type of openings for white against the Sicilian. So this is good. This will work really good. Hey, Warlord. Yes, those are Lieb classics behind me. Yes, I've got the Apostolic Fathers, Josephus, Homer's Iliad, an Odyssey, and I have Euripides, and I have the let's see, I've got 2 of the Apostolic Fathers, volume 1 and 2. These were translated by Bart Ehrman, the biblical scholar. Barnabas, the Shepherd of Hermas, very, very important early Christian work. Papias and Quadratus. Yeah, those are Lieb. Good way to study the classics and the early Christian literature, absolutely, is with the Lieb translation. The nice thing, for those of you who don't know about the Lieb, for instance, in this Apostolic Fathers, one side is the English, the other side is the Greek. And they're line for line translated. So it's kind of nice. You can follow along with the Greek. A lot of them in the Latin, early Christian fathers, they have the Latin, the Greek, the Syriac, the early languages. Fun stuff. Thanks for asking. Yeah, that's fun. Hey, it's cool that you know about the Lieb library. Yeah, it's fun. I need to collect more. They aren't that pricey. I should have the whole set. The whole set cost you about what, $1,800, and it would fill my entire wall. God, what I love to have that. Woo! I can't live long enough to read that much. In the English, let alone the Latin or the Greek. Right? All right, let's take a look at this one. This one's a fun one, and I'll show you why. Knight, King, Bishop 3, and Pawn, King 3. Beautiful, beautiful Sicilian. Oh, now this is where the difference is. Rather than bump the queen pawn here, white is going to bump the bishop pawn. So how does this change things? Let's keep our eyes on this. Knight, Queen, Bishop 3. Knight, Bishop 3. Knight, Bishop 3. Notice he also opened with his Queen, Bishop, Knight. In a way, it doesn't matter because they're both out, right? Whether you do the king first. And yet, it depends on what your opponent does. Sometimes they can screw it up for you if you go out of book order in opening. So many fun nuances. Come on. I agree. That's what makes chess hard. But it's also what makes chess fun. So So knight, bishop, and now he hits the center. So see, we've seen because they, rather than pushing the queen pawn early and getting that pawn exchange and putting that knight on d4, now because they bumped the knights out first, and now he pushes the pawn, he's got the two knights in a different position. Does that make any difference? I don't know. Let's watch. Pawn will take pawn. Knight will take pawn. Bishop to knight 5. So it does, in a way, make a difference. So this is a new angle on the Sicilian. We haven't seen this one yet, so this is going to be fun. And he's going to go ahead and swap the knight. And the knight pawn, he will, as a rule, if you can, when that knight is exchanged, you want to retake toward the center. Now, of course, there are always times where it would be better to pull it with the queen pawn rather than the knight pawn. Again, context. And that'll just come with experience. I wouldn't sweat any of that. For now, the general rule is retake toward the center. You're not going to go wrong. It's all good. You can do that for the next 10 years and be perfectly fine. I promise. In fact, you can do that for the majority of time for the rest of your life, and you'll be good. So knight pawn takes pawn. And now again, hit the target. So once again, the pushing of the center pawn, rather than just leaving the little pipsqueak there looking cool all by himself like he's a statue. Whoa, statue of Hermes. Forget that. Put the little guy to work. Radio in. Hey, pawn on e4, pawn on e4, advance one, go to e5, do it now. And so he does. Ah, look, you got the knight. You hit the knight. Well, you say, doesn't that give the knight a chance to go really long and hard? Now, watch this. This is what is so interesting. The knight's hanging. Why on earth would you put it there? The knight is hanging, but wait a minute. There's some tricks. Let's not get too hasty because this knight is pinned. So the knight's not hanging. And this is what is so cool to learn about this pin tactic. With the pin tactic, what you think your piece is doing guarding the e4 is not actually happening. Now, this pin is an absolute pin against the kings, so that's why black was safe to pull his knight. And now there's going to be some real interesting stuff if the black knight takes the white knight, or if the black bishop takes, then the king's going to have to move, or else the bishop's going to have to get in there. So this gets really interesting, understanding the power of the absolute pin. If that knight had been pinned against the queen, the knight could take the knight. It's true, you would lose your queen, so you would want to have a really good follow-up. Hopefully you have a tactic to where you can re-exchange their queen. Otherwise, you're just blundering your queen. But yeah, this principle of the pin, that's a great tactic to use. But understand, when it's used against us, the full ramification and meaning of that. And so, bishop knight. It says white knight takes knight. What on earth am I missing here? That is absolutely impossible. That knight can't move. Did I muff it again? Pawn, queen, 4. Pawn takes pawn. Knight takes the pawn. What on earth am I missing? Hold on. I hate it when this happens. This happens far too often with me. Let's start all over. I'm right at the beginning of the game. I can't believe that I missed something. And the cool thing is I'm right at the beginning. So I apologize for wasting 3 minutes of your time. Let's do this again. Pawn, queen, bishop 4. Knight, king, bishop 3. Pawn, king 3. Pawn, bishop 4. It does say pawn, bishop 4. Knight to queen, bishop 3. And notice, incidentally, with pushing the pawn and then pushing the knight out here, the coordination of the knight and the pawn, that's nice. Getting the pawn in front of the knight instead of just bumping the knight before you push the pawn, that kind of helps give a little bit better coordination. So that's kind of cool. That's a fun one to remember. Knight, queen, bishop 3. Knight, bishop 3. Knight, bishop 3. So all 4 knights are out. Pawn to queen 4. Pawn takes pawn. Yeah, we got that. Knight takes pawn. Yeah, we got that. So there's knight tension here. And now bishop, knight 5. How did I... Oh, and the knight takes the knight. Bishop, knight 5, pinning. Knight takes the knight. Knight, pawn takes the knight. Come on, what am I missing here? Pawn, king 5. Knight to king 5. Oh, there we go. And now queen comes to knight 4. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. I knew I was misunderstanding something. Now look at the double. So in chess, the strongest type of attack is a double attack. And it's wicked, man. If you can do this, try to keep your eyes peeled at all times for this. Because if you can do this, mwah, sweet. You're hitting the undefended knight and the undefended g7. Black can't save both. So this is going to be cooler than I'll get out. Well, he could. He could drop. No, he can't save both. The bishop will take it. I was going to say he could drop the knight to g5, but no, the bishop with tempo could take that and hit the queen. Yeah, no, the black can't deal with both those threats at the same time. Can't do it. If he brings his queen out here to offer an exchange, the queen just takes the knight. Yeah, there's the power of the double attack. And I mean, this is really cool to know. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you're double attacking 2 different pieces or 2 different pawns or a pawn and a piece or a king and a piece or a king and a pawn. The double attack is always really cool. So now black is going to try to make the best of it. So now this gets tricky too if you find yourself in this position. Because now black has a really wicked upcoming tactic potential with a discovery check. That knight can go anywhere it wants to, and yet the king is going to be in check. So you're either going to have to block that check or move the king. So the knight becomes a very deadly potential source of total frustration. You could take that pawn, the rook pawn, and the rook won't be able to retake you because the bishop's putting you in check. You could come over to, well, no, not there. Here, yeah, your best thing is take the pawn. Anyway, a discovery check is the potential here. And what do? There's your key. There's your key move if you find yourself in this kind of a situation. It's going to be really important. Hey, MH, good to see you. Hey, Jason Delanda. Ayo, good to see you. MH, it's okay. You don't have to worry about being late. I'm doing good. Yes, I am on Leech SIO. Absolutely. Backyard Professor fan club on Lee chess. Look up the Backyard Professor and you'll get right there. So hit the bishop. Hit the bishop. And he makes a mistake. He comes back. He wants to maintain this potential chance of a discovery, but this isn't going to work. So now this gives the white pieces a chance to get going. Rook is going to have to come over to bishop 1 in order to save the rook. And now hit the bishop again and look at the knight that's hanging. Observe the effects of the movement of the pieces, of the pawns. Now that breaks the connection between the rook and the bishop and the knight. So now the knight is hanging. That we might want to keep our eye on that. Bishop's going to come all the way back to bishop 2. And now, not that bishop, this one. Going to hit the queen. Absolutely. There's a target. So this is one of the cool things that you want to also look for when you're not fully developed. And notice neither side has had a chance to castle yet. This is really kind of a, for lack of a better description, a sloppy game. But developing with tempo mean you get a new piece out and he has to move a piece, the queen. That's developing with tempo is the best way to develop. That is really cool. The bishop will take the pawn. So an offer of an exchange of queens in an interesting manner. Very interesting. What would you do here? He took a central pawn. Would you be willing to do the queen exchange? Doesn't look like either one of you have developed much. Agreed, the white queen is out. So as far as the firepower, white has a little bit more firepower. But black has as many pieces out, and actually the knight is in the white territory, even though he is hanging. Criminy, man, the bishop's hanging. Everything is hanging. The queen is hanging. The bishop isn't, though, but the queen is. So it's really kind of a slapdash rigmarole, isn't it? So the question is, what would you do here? Any ideas? Go for it. Yeah, the jolly troll. Yeah, baby. Go for it. Yeah, thanks, MH. Yeah, the Oxford Common t-shirt. Woohoo! Watch what white does. This is the shock. Queen takes, rook, check. You sack the queen? King takes the queen. What are you left with? Bishop takes the queen. I'm going to reset this up because something very important just happened. Okay? If I remember how to set this up right, I'm going to reset this up. Would you just sack the queens, exchange queens? Okay. The problem is, yeah, then you can get your bishop out. Not to there, but you know what I mean. You can get your bishop out of here. So you exchange the queens, and that's just an exchange. Now, in this instance, it might be a very good exchange. There's nothing wrong with doing an exchange. But whenever you see an option for an exchange like that, look for something a little better. And notice the effect. rather than being a queen for a queen, because white takes the rook, a forcing move, check to the king. He gets a rook. The king has to take the queen. And now the bishop takes the queen, and the bishop is not in danger. So white lost a queen, but black lost a rook and a queen. That's a really cool tactic to remember. White comes up the exchange in that game, and his knight's still hanging. So that is a really interesting, cool tactic to keep in mind when you can play forcing moves like that. It's always better with the forcing moves. And that is actually how you solve all the, I mean, that's how you're supposed to solve all the tactics puzzles too that we have on Lee Chess, and chess.com has them, and Chess Tempo. I mean, there's all kinds of places you can study chess tactics. And you want to be practicing those as much as you can. I'm speaking to myself, and I'm doing okay on it. I'm making progress. You know, the idea is you can't eat an elephant in one setting, right? So you eat him one bite at a time. You improve your chess situation 1%, you know, even if it's 1% a week, so what? At least you're on the uphill improvement side of things, right? So improve your chess 1% as often as you can, and eventually 100 of those 1% is going to make 100%, right? That's the idea. So, hey, Gartmorn. Okay, so look, you guys wanted to see another one? Let's see. I'm at a minute 21. I've got just enough time for one more. If you want to see one more. Oh yeah, and this one's good. Yeah, let's do one more. I will do one more. If you don't want to see one more, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. You are excused from the class, but I'm going to do another one because I love this kind of stuff. Hey, Cara Nasrani. All right. Here we go. Another wonderful Sicilian. Let's see what happens in this time. Now he's going to bring out the knight immediately. Pawn, queen, 4. That is so typical. Hit the pawn, and the exchange is typical. Unlikely that black will retake here, although it will bump the queen up in to the center early in the opening, wide open, exposing the queen. But if she was ever attacked, she could just come all the way back. It's no harm, no foul that way. Bishop 3. Knight, queen, bishop 3. Pawn, king 3. So again, it's the same opening, just a little bit different move order. That's all we're seeing here. Preparing to castle. And bishop, knight 5, he's putting the pin on, but it also prepares black to castle. And white's going to go ahead. Now, this is probably the best way to get rid of that pin, is just simply castle out of it. Don't leave there's no reason not to. You don't want to leave your king or your knight in a pin to the king for very long anyway. And the knight is covered with the pawn, so not a big deal, right? And you say, well, yeah, I have a morbid fear of the double pawns. Well, they're still valuable. They're not a weakness until later on, especially in the end game. It's up to you, as Jeremy Silman says, you know. And isn't that the case? It's always up to me. It's always up to you to determine whether they're going to be a weakness or not. If you want to just let them sit there and collect dust, then yes, they'll become a weakness. But if you want to build a strategy around them and utilize them and help you get some tactical shots in, then they're a very good power. So it's entirely up to you, right? So anyway, And bishop will take the knight. So here we go. We get to see what happens with doubled pawns. So we have the dreaded double pawn syndrome, recognizing, of course, that that is not at this point a weakness at all, because look at how powerful he's supporting the center knight. That's not weak. See what I mean? So it's all good. And not, well, now here's, look, you let the black knight take a center pawn. How could you play such lousy schmuck chess? Well, let's take a look. Is it really that bad? Yes, it's horrible. Ooh, kind of a cool little skewer, isn't it? Of both knights. That's kind of cool. But when you see this, you go, oh, what a klutz. That won't work. That's my kefir. I'm trying to improve my gut biome. They've discovered that that's very important for your overall health. First, I got to get rid of my gut, which I am doing. I'm losing weight. But you got to take care of the bugs in you, man. Your gut biome is important. All right, so he takes the pawn and he's hitting the queen. Big deal. What's the problem with that? Well, pawn queen 4 is vastly better. Again, this temptation, and we all have it. It's all good. We're all human, you know. None of us are computers, so quit sweating the small stuff. That's actually not small stuff in a way. Because, and it's true, the front pawn on the double pawns is always the target, duh, because he can't be supported, right? Okay, so I get that. But you're not in control of the center enough. Okay? And in this instance, you actually can do something about it. So you've lost your focus a little bit. If now you go pawn hunting, you say, hey, I suckered the guy. I got him to double his pawns. What a punk. Now I can attack those pawns. That's true, but understand something. Not in the opening. I mean, it's not like he's going to undouble his pawns anytime soon. Duh. He can't just say, oh, hey, I'd like for my next move to just kind of bump this guy over to there. Could I do that, please? Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. He's not going to undouble the pawns. So why do you think it's so important and necessary to attack him so soon? This would have been magnifico. That is a much better move, without question. Centralizing your power, supporting a phenomenal knight, opening up an option. You do, it's kind of like the French opening, though. You have a bad bishop, the bad white squared bishop, you're going to have to deal with that. But you can at least bump him out. Now you can castle, bump the bishop out, bump the queen out, and connect the rooks. But really, truly, you only have 2 pieces out. And it's true, white only has 2 pieces out at this point. Yeah, all right. I get it. But that's losing. That's losing. And ta-da! Mr. Repeatability here. Move after move after move of the same piece in the opening for what? A pawn? Are you kidding me, man? We see this over and over again, so it's worth repeating. This loses. So don't do it. That's simple. It's simple to hear and it's simple to say, right? But you get into the heat of the battle and you go, all right, I go here, he goes there, takes. Oh, hey, if I put my knight there and then I go there, ooh, then I've got a pawn. Oh, I get it. It gives you a sense of what control, power, perhaps, maybe. It's losing strategy. Just don't do it. And once again, we're going to see why. So, and this is a great example. What would be the proper response of white? You tell me, what move would you do here? This is really kind of cool to see. Your queen is under attack. I mean, make sure you get that. The queen is in danger, so what are you going to do? Hey, Debbie Donovan, good to see you. Thank you for showing up. Bishop Rook, yes, live. Ken Brown, welcome, my friend. So, yeah, Bishop Rook 3, but your queen's under attack. Or did you say Bishop Rook 3? Oh, Belaglavi. Yeah, you're right, but your queen's under attack. Did you say that before I did this move? You might have. No, your queen's under attack. Where are you going to put the queen? That is a great move. Bishop Rook 3. Yeah, but not right now. Right? So anybody see a move where you like to put the queen? Come on. Chat with me, you guys. Show me. Show me what you got. What are you going to do? Are you going to take this knight with this knight? No. Not how it works. You're going to take it with the pawn? You don't get to do that either. You're going to take it with this rook? Nope, you're not going to take it with the rook. So looks to me like you got to move the queen. If you're half intelligent, you will move the queen. There is no other move. The question is where? Where do you put her? Come on, talk to me. Tell me. M8 says D3. Any other places, you guys? We have one call for D3. Come on, spit it out. Show some courage. You in the back. Gorgeous lady. Must be Debbie Donovan. You got your hand raised. Where are you going to put your queen? Okay, we've got two D3s. I'm going to agree with that. D3 is by far the best spot. You're certainly not going to put her to E2. Right? So let's look at the effect of this. Oh, that's true too. I guess you could have done that. That is an option. Yeah, Beloglavi has an interesting idea. Knight takes the knight, then knight takes the queen, then knight takes the queen, and you pick up an extra knight. Not a bad eye, Beloglavi. That's not bad. That is not what happened, but yeah, I see that's definitely an option. Queen did come to D3 in this instance, though. And now Black brought the knight here to Queen 4. So my note here says, oh, yeah. No, it's a long variation. I won't remember what the board's like, so I'm going to skip it for the moment. Hey, Bear Bait, good to see you. E1 would have also worked. E1, but it was less passive than Queen D3 because it brings the queen closer to the center. But that's a good option. That would have worked. It's not like it's a mistake. It's just a little bit passive, so the D3 would be the better option at this point. So with the knight retreating, now the bishop will take that knight, and the pawn will take the bishop. So The interesting thing here now is, what do you see? What do you guys see? Yes, I know, a chessboard. Okay, you're white. Woohoo! You're playing white pieces. You are playing for the state championship of your state, and you must defeat this guy. But he is better than you, and we all know it. What are you going to do as white here? Show me something cool. Beloglavi. Yeah, baby. MH. Right on, guys. Yes, sir. Rook E1. Check. Open file. Rooks belong on open file. The cool thing is, no more castling for the king. No, you're not going to block with the queen. No. I mean, you could, but okay, he's better than you, but he's not that much better than you because you're doing proper chess principles. Yeah, the king goes to B1. Okay, or I mean, the F8, sorry. To bishop 1 is how this says it. King F8, here's the problem. This rook is never going to see the light of day again. So, the cool thing here is, psychologically at least, now, actually somewhat physically as well, but psychologically at least, you are now up a piece. Even though this guy's better than us, we are up a piece because we did something so simple. We just followed a simple chess rule. I mean, any Sally, Dick, and Jane can do this. And this Sally, Dick, and Jane player, who is lesser good than him, we went ahead and did this, and the effect is still the same. Put the rook on the open file, hit the king, go check. The king moves, and now you're up a piece in physical play here. What's that tell you your strategy is? Get everything out in the field and start attacking. Because he's playing down a piece for all intents and purposes. And you're saying that's not true. You're wrong, you dork, because he's guarding the H7. Well, forgive me. You're right. He is guarding the H7. What an important thing for a rook to do. Now, in some cases, it is. But yeah, okay, so enough having fun. So, call the troops. Here we go. Knight F5. So here's the overall general idea. The objective is to attack the king. Okay, cool. Cool. We want to attack the king. How do we do that? First, you got to get your pieces closer to the king. That is why this is a great move. But there's another reason why Knight F5 is a great move. Not because at this point it's threatening anything, because technically it's not. What is that knight wanting? And why are we uncomfortable with that knight there? And is there anything we can do to get rid of that pesky knight if we were playing black? Oh, heck yes. Yeah. Let's get rid of that little pipsqueak. Let's chase him off. And you would fall for a serious error if that is your chess psychology. Bumping that pawn gives you weak, dark squares around the king. And it doesn't matter if you're castled or not. This guy obviously isn't castled. He's never going to be castled. But that just creates weaknesses. And Gloria in excelsis Deo. I know it's not Christmas, but we've got a dark squared bishop. That would be our very next move. Your eye, if you see your opponent push the G pawn and you see weak dark squares, your eye immediately finds if you have the dark squared bishop. Aha, we do. Yeah. Where can I put him near to the king? Because he just gave me the dark squares as close as possible. Blam, check. Game over. Game over. You got a rook. You got a bishop. You got a knight. You see? So the knight move is also a psychological warfare to your opponent. Ha! I can get close to your king. Ha! I'm going to get so close to your king, I'm going to tickle him. And it's going to make him very uncomfortable. He's not going to like it. I've got a feather going to his feet, man. So they're going to want to chase your knight away. We would love it if they pushed G6. That would rock. Well, they didn't. They came pawn queen 3. So, you ready for some more chess psychology? Okay, so they pushed queen 3. Okay? Or queen 3, I apologize. D6. They pushed the pawn to D6. We're white. What's your next move? What are you saying, bishop rook 3? You're still saying bishop rook 3. Yeah, look at that. That's not bad. That's not bad. Although the pawn is double attacked, that's true. But yeah, that's one option. I'm not going to argue against that. That's not what was played here, but that is it. Queen takes d5. Yeah, you got a free pawn here. Queen takes d5, Belaglavi says, is also not bad. In fact, that's quite good. See, that's the thing. The field is, the board, is wide open, right? Goodness, you have so many good plays. What to do with it all? Here's what he did. He actually said, I can take the pawn. He's going to blow open the king. Okay, so the bishop couldn't succor the pawn move. So take that saucy little pawn. And you go, all right, but wait a minute. Isn't that just giving the knight away? He's not going to take that knight. Are you kidding me? There's no way he's going to take that knight. You've got queen over to here, g3 check. You've got bishop up to here, and then you've got the queen in for the mate because he can't run away because the rook, right? So the knight takes is a superb move. All he can do at this point is knight king 4. So he is trying to break the communication by developing in the center. Now, that's a very important concept without question. And so he's trying to break communication with the center. But now, watch what he does. Now he's going to come knight rook 5. You're going, how does that make sense? Here's why. Bishop is going to have to come to king 3. Now notice, all of a sudden, black is hurrying very fast to bunch up a bunch of stuff in the center that will radiate protection to his king, an attack to the white attackers, right? So now what he does is another crazy sacrifice. The rook takes the knight. He's going to get rid of the central power. Pawn is going to take the rook. And bishop, Beloglavly. There's your move, my man. See, you have the right idea. You probably would have played it earlier, and I don't think that would have been an error at all. But now that bishop to rook 3 check, absolutely pristine move. So you had the eye, yeah. Develops a piece with tempo, baby. Absolutely. So king comes to king 1. Now that he sacrificed his rook, and now queen comes to this knight 5, b5, queen to b5, check again, and now look, you got a bishop and a queen on the diagonals. This is serious. Queen to queen 2. Okay, where's the move? Where's the move? What do you do? Remember, this guy's better than we are. And yet, because we're playing tactical, open-eyed chess like Beloglavly and MH and all of you guys are doing, what's the move? I love Kefir. That's good stuff. Good for your gut biome. I've said that once already, yeah. Yeah. Quit teaching us health and teach us chess. There it is. Bishop C1, B2. Oh, that was earlier, though, right? Yeah, you're not meaning right now. No, there's a very, very, very important knight, bishop 6. Checkmate. Or no, actually, he wins the queen. Sorry, it's not checkmate, but he wins the queen. Checkmate. See, so Beloglavly, you had the idea right. Here would have been check, yes, but here forks the king and the queen. So knights are tricky. Try to look at each and every square that the knights go to. This way wins quick. You can't go here because the bishop. And he can't go here either. So the only square is D8. And now you just nab the queen. Actually, yeah, because the bishop's guarding the queen. I suppose. No, man, I wouldn't trade off the. No, there's no reason to trade off the queen and the knight for the queen and the bishop. Just take the queen. Yeah, don't take it with the queen. You want to keep your queen for the attacking purposes. And then, of course, he'll hit the queen, and then you can come over to here. You get your central pawns and pin the bishop to the king. So, yeah, fun stuff. But again, just following just the basic 1 or 2 pawn openings or 1 or 2 pawn moves in the opening, develop all of your pieces speedily, and put them on activating squares, and look for tactics. And hot dog, baby, you're playing as good a chess as your opponent, even if your opponent is better than you. There you go, Borlord. That's true. Yeah, Quran, knight f6. Yep, that was the one. Oh, Beloglavsky, you did say knight f6. I apologize. I thought you said something else. Oh, you originally said knight g7. Then you said, yeah, knight f6. Right. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, the knight forks are always tricky to see, and I'm talking about myself too. I miss them way too often. Whether I miss one that I can put on my opponent, or whether they throw one on me and I didn't see it, and so I didn't prevent it. But anyway, that's some fun stuff with the Sicilian. And are you guys getting tired of the Sicilian? Do you want me to look at stuff next week on another opening? Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've got another dozen Sicilian traps and combinations and kind of cool opening themes I can show you on the Sicilian if you want. I'm loving it. Doesn't matter to me, but I just don't want you guys to get, oh, you mean another weekend of Sicilian? You know, if you're going to get that way with me, I can switch it up. But maybe I should switch it up, you know. I could pick another opening for next weekend, and then the weekend after that, I can bump back to this. Either way. Maybe the QGD. I know I'm supposed to know what. Oh, Queen Gambit declined. The Tarish? I don't know if I have that. Does he have stuff here on Queen Gambit decline? He's got King Gambit. Queen's Gambit. I'd be shocked if he didn't have a Queen's Gambit. Hold on, let me look real quick. Oh, here we go. Oh, there's a whole bunch of right after the Sicilian. There's a whole bunch of Queen Gambit accepted. Here we go. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Wow, the Queen Gambit declined is a huge chapter. Why don't we do that next week? I don't know how much he's going to show of the Tarish of this, Belaglovsky, but yeah, let's do the Queen Gambit declined. Yeah, I'll mark it right here, right now. We'll do a whole bunch of Queen Gambit decline next weekend. Yeah, I like the idea. Yeah, that's a great. Well, my nephew. Oh, by the way, in my chess tournament last week on Sunday, in the chess tournament I went to, I took second place. Woohoo! Yeah, baby! Out of 8 games, I won 7. And one of those that I won was my nephew, whom I taught chess. And then he promptly turned around within 6 months. He was trouncing me for years. We go back and forth now. I won this one. He'll probably win the next one. He's very good. Very fun to play against. But yeah, I got him. I threw an Italian opening. I threw a Gioco Piano on him because one of these videos, in fact, I think it was 2 of them, I did a whole bunch of Gioco Piano, And what's his nose? Igor Smirnov, the Grandmaster. Great chess channel. Great chess course. I've got his chess course. I'm working my way through it. Chess Mastery. He shows a whole bunch of Italian opening tricks. So I played through all of them. And then I threw the Italian at Jeff, my nephew. I barely got him. I got him. I had a good king side attack, but I got him. So I took second place. I missed the trophy and the money by 1 game. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was cool. We're going to try to do a little bit more of that. So, all righty. Anything else that we have? Any other unfinished business we have other than thanking all of you guys for being in my audience and enjoying this chess time with me? I love doing this. This is a lot of fun. It's a lot of good. I'm actually somewhat, too slowly for my taste, but whose fault's that if I just study more, right? If I would just study 14 hours a day instead of 2, I would get better faster, right? But yeah, I'm doing decent at improving my tactics. I've gone from like 1100 rating to 1600 in the last 3 months. But once you get to the harder tactics, you miss 2 of those in a row, you're right back down to the 1300 rating. So yeah, while it sounds impressive right now, it's not that big a deal. It's not about the rating anyway, it's about the accuracy. But I think I've done 75 or 80 tactics this week, and out of those I think I've missed 11. So my percentage isn't nearly as high as I want it, but it's higher than I expected it to be. So it's give or take a little bit. I wish it was 100%. Hey, I'm in the process of learning too, but it's good. Oh, really, Gart Mom? Yeah. You'll like it. I promise you really will. It'll be a good one. Play more games. Thumbs up, people. Warlord. Yeah, hit the like, and that'll help my algorithm. Yeah, I need to play more games too. Yes, you're right, Dolphin 707. Absolutely. This last week, I've kind of sacrificed my time of playing games into studying the tactics. So maybe this next week I'll start playing some more games, and I'll have some games to show you too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this Queen Gambit declined. I'll look up some of the I'll look up the Tarish and see if I can find some cool information on the Tarish variation. See if there's any kind of a special trick trap or whatever. If there is, I'm hoping Alexander Alekin played it a few times. Either him or Rubenstein probably did, or Capablanca, and I'll bet you I could find some from Magnus Carlsen. I'll bet he's played it a little bit too. I'll look and see, and then I'll bring it back to you next week, and we will have a very good time looking through it. So, all right, I'm going to cash out for now. I'm going to head out. You guys, absolutely bear bait. My good pleasure. You guys have a great weekend for the rest of the weekend, and keep an eye out for my videos. I am going to be kicking off some more chess videos during the week. And I've got my Sunday night live at 6 p.m. tomorrow night on my Mormonism subject. If you're interested in that, you're welcome. If not, no big deal. I get cross mix from all sides, which is really fun and awesome. And I will see you guys this week in videos, and I will see you next week live. All right, be awesome. I know you can't help it. It comes natural, right?